All right. Welcome, welcome.
Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just a couple minutes. We'll give some time for folks to trickle in. I'm so excited to be speaking to you today.
Yeah. I need some good jam music.
Good, Jim. I know. Like Zoom's really missed an opportunity with royalty-free webinar waiting room music.
Ah, that would be fantastic. Yep.
That could be us, Jay. Bongos, maybe? A double bongo. That's cool. No one's done that before, right?
I'm curious to hear how a double bongo would sound for for
Percussive, I
waiting room
think.
music. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like kind of stressful, like waiting in the waiting room for bad news or something like that. One of my friends just resent me that video from the pandemic of that lawyer who showed up to like I think a hearing and he couldn't turn off the cat filter on Zoom. Cracked me up.
Oh, yes.
I felt so bad for him because he was really stressed, but it was really funny.
I think I saw that. They gave the disclaimer of I am not actually a cat.
Which is so yeah, very humorous.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Stranger Things, I guess.
Hi, Sanjeev. Great to see you here.
Awesome. And I'm hoping that this can be interactive. We'll be showing a lot of fun stuff and we'll have a Q&A portion at the end. So don't worry if we don't answer your question while we're working through this. We'll make sure that it gets addressed. Cool. Well, I think we can probably get started. We'll let folks kind of trickle in as they need to. Today, we're going to be talking to you about our new invoicing PDF functionality. Our niche has always been law firms and professional service firms. We know y'all have specific invoicing needs, and we're really excited to show you what we've been working on to help with that. My name is Melissa Schaefers. I'm a product manager at LeanLaw. I've worked here for 2 years. You might recognize my face from the customer support department if you've been with us for a while, but if not, I'm happy to meet you today. And my pronouns are she, her. And joining me is going to be Jay Sanchez. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So hello, everybody. My name is Jay Sanchez. I'm the manager of the support and success team. I recognize a few familiar names in the attendees, so it's great to see you here. My pronouns are he, him, and just happy to be presenting here with Melissa.
Awesome. I'm excited. This is actually the first webinar we've done together, but we've been working together,
Yeah,
well, I guess as long as Jay's been here.
yeah, exactly.
Everyone who's met him in the support department knows how awesome he is. So it's you understand what a treat this is for me. So why focus on invoices right now? Why are we working on this? Why should you care about this? Those are all valid questions. Uh, your time is super valuable and you need to spend it doing what is most important. The first reason that comes to mind is when you spend a lot of extra time working on invoice personalization, whether you're, depending on where you're at in kind of your tech stack journey, you might be compiling stuff in Excel, putting it in Word, spending a lot of time moving everything around just so every month for your clients, you may need to make edits to an existing invoice in something like Adobe to change the language or the font, things of that nature. All of that adds up, especially when you're invoicing at volume or if you're a 1 or 2 person operation. Your time is valuable, and this is not like an ideal use of your talents most of the time. Additionally, transparency in invoicing, the quality of your invoice is super critical. Um, your attorneys, your paralegals work hard for your clients all month long. And often when you get to this crucial point of invoicing, this is what we've worked on, please pay me. The format of the invoice does not stack up with the professionalism that's communicated in other areas of your business. And QuickBooks has recently changed their format. I think that's why a lot of y'all are here. With this change, it's become clear to us how important a specialized solution is for law firms. We love QuickBooks, and there may be some with this change, there may be some things missing that you specifically as a law firm need that maybe weren't considered, and we want to help with that. And with that, I'm just going to jump into the demo and show you what we've been working on. Like I said, we'll have time for questions afterwards, absolutely. But Jay is going to help me work through this. Cool. So I'm in LeanLaw, and this is a pro firm. So to take a look at my invoice settings, I'm going to go to Settings, Invoice Email, and you can see that I have 3 templates here: Standard, Without Rates, and Without Trust. Those are names that I've chosen. You can choose whatever you want. In my email settings, you'll see that I have my logo already loaded in. That's important because that's exactly how we get the logo for the invoice template. It's automatically included.
Hey, Melissa, I got a quick question. So
Yeah.
This is the view for the pro users. What about core users?
Yeah, so our core and pioneer users, those who have been with us for a really long time, will have access to one template. If you're in a spot where you need 3, maybe for different practice areas or different clients have different needs, the pro subscription and the option to have 3 is definitely going to be the way to go.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. So in my template settings, I have a couple different sections that I can look at. I've got my preview on the left, and sometimes this is going to be populated with information that is just generic, like Monica Geller is not one of my firm's clients, unfortunately. Or I guess it's a fictional firm, and none of us actually have JDs, so maybe she is. I'll have the option.
I was gonna say, so to make sure this is all like default information. What we see here
Yeah.
is just, it's a preview. It's not actually what's gonna show to the clients. It's gonna populate with their accurate info after the template is done. We do not have Monica Geller as a client.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
So my first set of options are going to be my summary selections. Right now I have all 3 enabled, the account summary, retainer summary, and hours. The account summary has information like the balance forward. If a client has an outstanding invoice, when you create this month's invoice, that's where it'll show up. Any payments and credits that have been made on the invoice will appear here. And we'll also have the new charges. And so that's, the sum of tax, what is owed for services on this actual invoice, basically everything that we're charging that day on that invoice. We'll also populate with, if someone has made a payment, that'll appear here. If you've recorded a payment from retainer or trust, that'll appear here as well. And ending in the total amount due. Now, this is going to update regardless of when a payment is made. So if you create the invoice and then, like many of us do, make a payment from retainer immediately, that will appear here. So, that's a struggle that we've had with the account summary in QuickBooks, and we wanted to make sure that we, allocated resources for that specific use case. The retainer summary is similar. You'll get your starting retainer balance, your ending retainer balance. And if you use evergreen retainers and that client has an evergreen retainer amount or a minimum retainer balance, it'll appear here on the bottom. And we can enable or disable these independent of each other. So that means that I'm not stuck with one or the other. Maybe I don't use retainers at all or trust at all, and that's not relevant for my firm. Or maybe not relevant for a group of clients. I can just turn that off, no big deal. The hour summary is going to be the average rates for each user on an invoice. Some firms like to use that when they have a bunch of folks tagging in on a given client or matter. Do you have any questions about that, Jay?
Yeah, so with the payment from retainer, just to clarify, that is again just presentation on the invoice. Is that displaying older payments or newer payments?
Well, that's a great question. So, you might be familiar with our trust memo functionality. That was when we inserted information about what you had in retainer and what we expected you to make as a payment based on what was available. This is an improvement on that because it reflects the actual payments made from retainer. So if you, for that invoice, so if you make a payment from retainer, it will appear. And if you don't, it won't, even if you have funds available. This is great for firms who have to have a delay in when they send their invoice to the client and when they pull funds from the retainer or the trust, as you do in many states. I think Washington is one of them, and need a way to communicate that accurately. I know the trust memo was causing issues in that scenario for sure. So
Gotcha.
it won't reflect payments on older invoices, just on this invoice, this balance here. So it's not your full trust account ledger, which many of you attach to the invoice and send to the client. Awesome. So the next section that's super important is our table fields section. This is basically our activity table where we can put up to 8 columns of whatever we want. For this, I have the date, matter name, description, rate, billed hours, and amount. So using this menu on the right, I can actually change that. So maybe I don't want to include matter name. Maybe I want matter ID instead, or username initials to be included. Then if I want things to be moved around, it would look kind of silly to have initials at the end. I can move it over here like that.
Gotcha. So it sounds like a click and drag. Now, are all the columns available to be clicked and dragged around?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can change the order on like however which way you want. Right now we have a maximum of 8 columns per table. That's just to help with spacing and stuff like that. It can get a little crowded if you have more.
Okay.
Another feature that we have that is going to be interesting for a lot of firms is the write down hours column. So if you are frequently working on projects where the scope changes, or maybe working with more junior staff who need to have write downs, you can include this on those invoice templates. And when you make a write down in LeanLaw, it will appear there. So it's clear to your client that a discount is being given, basically, if that's important to you.
When you change this template, is this going to apply to all clients, all matters? How would you bulk update that?
It's a great question. Let's take a look at that in just a moment.
Okay.
And I'll walk you through how to do that. For now, I'm going to take off initials. We'll leave that as is. The memo, you'll be familiar with this. This is just where you can put information that you want to be on every single invoice. Some people put like a billing address. If it's different from your firm address, you might put a note for your clients, things like that. You can always add information in the draft stage, but this will be the default that's shown. Additionally, you can change the mode from retainer to trust. So that language is important, like on the retainer summary, in the account summary, because not every firm uses a retainer or a trust. It depends on your estate and your firm's operations. So that can just be important to make sure that what you're saying to your clients matches the invoice that they get and the information that's on it. Cool.
Gotcha. And that bottom, just curiosity, that bottom green arrow underneath the invoice template, where does that lead to?
Oh yeah, that'll just take us to the end of the invoice over here. This is an example
Gotcha.
of the information that's included in the hour summary,
And the got it. Okay. And now is this how the invoice is going to look like in QuickBooks too?
That's a great question. So this is the copy of the invoice that you'll be able to print from LeanLaw and email from LeanLaw to your clients. In QuickBooks, it's still going to be the same invoice. However it looks right now, it'll continue to look like that. That's so that we can enable kind of all of these changes without having to work in the bounds of the styling that QuickBooks has currently. And we can talk a little bit more about what that'll look like in a moment. Right now, let's take a look at how to apply our fun new standard template to a bunch of different clients and matters. So standard is our default. That means when I create new clients and matters, that's what it will be defaulted to, without me having to change anything. But if I'm in a situation where I need different clients to have a different template, I can open a matter, go to the billing and rates tab, look at the invoice template, and I could give him standard, without rates, or without trust. Let's do without trust for him. And there's only one matter for this client, but if there were a lot and I wanted all of them to have the same template, I could just check this box similar to when you're making a rate update and click save.
Gotcha. And I think that might be very useful for those clients that are they like to really dig into the details of the hours and all that. So you can set a different template then to maybe exclude the hourly rate, but include the total. And that way you can set that as their specific template for that client. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. You know, depending on practice areas, your attorney's preferences, it might totally make sense to have 3 different templates and apply them to different clients and matters as needed.
Okay.
So
And
yeah,
does this affect leads at all?
does it affect leads at all? No, leads will remain the same. So that information isn't changing. It'll match what your leads file should look the same. Like if you enable this feature tomorrow, the leads files would remain how they are.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool. So let's take a look at a couple different invoices. Let's see, we have a couple different clients here. Let me take this off and look at what I have and ready to bill. Okay, so for Dubois Kelly, I am going to go to her client and give her a new template. My billing and rates tab, and I'll give her, make sure she has our standard template. And see, perfect. And
A
let's
quick
make
question
yeah.
on this one, Melissa. Let's assume that, you know, a lot of our users don't really have this on right now, and this is an option that they will have available. And we'll talk about that a little bit more further. But once they do have this enabled, do they have to go into each client and enable it, or once the feature is enabled, it'll apply the standard template for everyone?
Yeah, that's a great question. Right now we're in early access, and I'd need to take a look at how those settings are going to play with your existing setup. In the future, when this is rolled out for everyone, the default template will be applied to all clients and matters.
Gotcha.
Perfect. So let's go through billing, and we'll create a draft invoice for Kelly. Awesome. Let's see, and we have a few different sections here. I'll go ahead and approve this to QuickBooks, and we'll be using the same invoice numbers that you always have been. So you won't need to change anything there. If you're already using a schema, this will just pick that up as well. And it's handy because you'll be able to find the invoice in LeanLaw and the invoice in QuickBooks with the same number. Awesome. So let's take a look at this one. This one might even be a better example. So this is a multi-matter invoice where I have an hour summary. This is the average rate and the totals for each of the timekeepers that worked on this. I've got a starting and ending retainer balance. I haven't made any payments on this yet, but you'll be able to see all these different columns, the billed hours. Another thing that we fixed that might seem small, but I know is really important to a lot of people is that all of the numbers have a default 0.00 2 decimal places, so that everything aligns really nicely. And you can see that I have tax on this invoice, and we're also working with the balance forward from a previous invoice that's appearing here. Do you have any questions about this, Jay?
I think mainly the questions are, and I think this is more into the actual customization of the template. When it comes to showing the specific count, so say for example, I don't want the breakdown of the billed hours or the write down hours, but I do want the total. Is that an option?
Yeah, absolutely. So what that would look like, I think if I'm understanding, is for me to go to invoice email. Maybe I'll change, the without rates would be a good version. So on this one, I've just got date, the initials of the timekeeper who worked on it, description, and amount. So if I maybe don't want to broadcast what the different rates for all of my timekeepers are, but just make it clear how much each time entry costs, this would be a good option. Additionally, if I want to kind of deal with some of the sticker shock of an invoice and maybe avoid questions about like, well, why did this cost that? And, this cost something else. I can just take the amount off altogether. It's still going to total everything up. We're not changing the underlying data, but it's just going to be one invoice balance at the end.
Gotcha. And does that affect at all? Like if we click on enabling the hour summary, does any of the table fields like making them show or not show, does that affect the hour summary?
The hour summary. Oh, that's a great question. So the hour summary is going to populate regardless of if you have the associated columns enabled or not. So if you didn't want to show that, or if for some reason you maybe only wanted to show the averages, you would want to be mindful of enabling or not enabling the hour summary.
Gotcha.
Awesome. And so like I said, the invoice is going to remain how it is in QuickBooks. So if I open up another invoice, oops, I think I might have undone that while I was getting ready for the webinar. Let me refresh over here. So in QuickBooks itself, it still has all of the same underlying data. We haven't changed that. And the and it's going to look the same. And actually, I think in my developer account, I still have access to the old version of the invoice, which many of you on May 6th lost access to. Probably next month or in a couple months, I'll lose access to this as well. But this isn't a real QuickBooks account. So all of this remains the same. There are no changes there. So, if your accountant or whoever is looking at QuickBooks, they'll still see all the pertinent information. It just won't be this version of, it won't be the LeanLaw version of the invoice.
Gotcha. So it sounds like the LeanLaw version is more for that client transparency specifically. So QuickBooks is unaffected, but you still want to make sure that you maintain professional branding, increase the transparency with your client, and have additional control that maybe QuickBooks doesn't allow with the new format.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great way to put
Okay.
it. And yeah, let's take a look now at kind of like how to get involved in this, what the access looks like, all that good stuff.
Sure.
An early release program is really exciting. I think why I'm most excited to share it with our customers are that you can use a law firm, an invoice designed specifically for your law firm. We're continuing to iterate and develop on it, and we'll list some of the things that are coming really soon and some of the things that are coming a little bit later in just a moment. But we think it's a great opportunity for you and are really excited to partner with you to continue developing this so that it works for even more use cases and is even better. There are a lot of benefits to working with a team that is so focused on your specific niche, and I think that a better invoice is one of them. Another is that we have made improvements, like I was talking about, to the retainer trust summary that you aren't going to get in just the regular retainer memo or trust memo that you're using already with our invoices. And I'm excited to solve some of the issues, like if you're a firm that needs to delay the payment from retainer until after your client has had the invoice for a number of days. You can also assign templates by matter. I know that's super critical when you're working in bulk. If you're a large firm, if attorneys have different preferences, you won't have to go to QuickBooks, change your default template, apply it to your settings, and then generate invoices on different days, things like that. That definitely creates some friction that I'm excited to alleviate. And then additionally, we're letting you customize up to 8 columns with key data from LeanLaw that you won't have to put in manually. A lot of folks may currently have to make these edits in Adobe or something like that. And I'm excited to see how this like customization and personalization can speed up your workflow.
Absolutely. Coming up next. So, and this is some of the questions that we've been getting also is how this affects the custom field support. Melissa, would you like to share a bit more about what we're planning on doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So custom field support is definitely top of mind for a lot of folks. That's being able to add things like case numbers and billing periods that sync in from QuickBooks and are applied to your invoice automatically. Those will be ready in pretty short order and are kind of on our immediate roadmap. Another big ask is being able to show just the expense amounts. So a lot of times you don't, a law firm may definitely need to show what an individual expense is worth because you're getting reimbursed directly for it, but may not want to advertise super clearly what each time entry is worth or each fixed fee. So we're going to make that a setting you can set for individual templates and apply, for given matters or clients. We're also adding a client-facing custom annotation field that will enable you to, like, for instance, the specific use case we're thinking about is completely disabling all the columns on the activity table. So it's just the invoice balance at the end with taxes and anything else, and being able to summarize the work that you did in that month for your client. So it's front and center, and an additional text field beyond the memo because it can be a little wonky to try and fit all of that information in there and have it sort of in the bottom of the invoice as opposed to in the center near the top. We're also adding subtotaling by section. So the subtotaling you're used to expenses, entries, and fixed fees separately, just so it's a really clear breakdown of how much each thing costs. And while we were in this webinar, we actually released the trust versus retainer language on the invoice so that you can change which one you need based on what your firm actually uses to reflect, your reality.
So that's already here. Got it.
Yeah, I know. Our development team is lightning fast, very exciting. We're also adding a paid stamp. So this is important as a visual indicator, especially if you send your client your invoice once and then maybe send it to them again after it's paid so they can keep it for their accounting records. Also, if you, maybe applied a credit memo, like an overpayment, and want to send it to them to make sure you don't get overpaid again, having a paid stamp is a super critical feature. And then these are some things that aren't on our immediate roadmap, but we're definitely strongly considering. Doing advanced styling, so being able to adjust colors and fonts to match up with your firm branding. And by the way, these are things that either in the Q&A portion, or if you wanted to send me an email and your vote for one of them or something else, that would be awesome. Additionally, movable sections, so being able to, for instance, if you wanted the trust summary first and then the account summary, or you wanted the activity table at the top and all of the summaries below that, this would be an option for you to change how all those things are ordered. Additionally, we're also considering having templates by practice area. So instead of, or in addition to choosing a template for a group of clients or matters, you might want to just choose your immigration, like B2C template, and then your B2B, like when you're working directly with businesses, they may need different information. So if any of those are appealing, or if there's something there, something that's not there, that you think is a great idea, I'd definitely love to hear about it.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about access? Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and we got a few of these questions in the chat. So how do you get access to this? This is going to be available for core, pioneer, and pro users. So everybody will have access to this as long as you have either a submitted or approved Confido legal application. This is the best way that you can opt into it. It ties directly into LeanLaw's. So if you have questions about LeanLaw's, are interested in signing up for the early access, but don't currently have a Confido account, or you do have a Confido account and want the early access, you can reach out to our support team and we can get that turned on for you. I believe on the next slide, we got the contact info for the support team as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
So if you don't want to sign on to Confido immediately, no worries. We will still release this. You might just have to wait a little longer for it. So we're aiming to release this around fall 2024. The benefits of joining the early release program is that your voice is going to frame how this looks like for thousands of users. So it's not just making things easier for you, it's having your voice elevated. You get to really shape how the future of invoice customization looks like at LeanLaw. So if that's the route that you want to go, if you're interested in the early release, if you want access to this, that's the email for support@myleanlaw.com. That's where you can directly message the support team and we'll get you started.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think now, I know we have some questions in the chat. We're going to take a look. We have quite a few today. So if we don't get to you, just know that we're recording all of these and we'll follow up after the fact, either via email or chat, depending on how we normally contact you. Yeah, and if you don't have this on your screen right now, the invoice email or the invoice settings, that's just because it's not enabled in your firm yet. Just like Jay was talking about. Let's see. Okay, it looks like we got a question from Karen. Is the payment from retainer showing up in draft and will be there even if you don't apply retainer? Currently, even if we do not pay. Okay, yeah. So Karen, that's a great question. I think what she is talking about is the trust memo. So now, like I was talking about a little bit earlier, the retainer summary or trust summary, depending on which setting you use, doesn't get generated until the invoice is on manage invoices. And if as it updates, like if you make a payment from retainer, the invoice is regenerated there. So the retainer summary is only going to show, and like the paid from retainer line is only going to show real actual payments you have made from retainer on that invoice. very exciting. Can you add the matter name under the bill to section? Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to be enabled once custom field support is online. That'll be a custom field that you can include there.
Yeah, we have one from Diane Miller. Can you adjust the width of the columns? And I believe that we do have the option, so you won't be able to click and drag the column width, but we do have an option for a wider column selection, which we can also enable for you when you have the early access enabled.
Yeah, so the columns right now, the widths aren't customizable, they're automatically generated. If you already have access to this, you might have noticed that the description column can be a little skinny. We have a fix for that out now, and we can get that enabled for your firm so that it's a little bigger. Definitely, we'd love to see people use it, and we'll continue kind of iterating on spacing and stuff like that to make it look better in more situations with more columns and stuff like that. If it's still something that people are interested in as we kind of work on that, it's definitely something we'll consider adding to the roadmap, especially if it's important to a lot of people.
Gotcha. We did have a question from Samuel Schaffner. What if I don't want to have LeanLaw email my invoices? Do I still have the ability to edit through the edit the invoice?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you don't want to email your invoices through LeanLaw, you can download them from LeanLaw. So if I'm on my LeanLaw and I go to billing and manage invoices, you can still print or download all of these invoices as a big group. And I'll get the LeanLaw invoice template.
Wonderful.
And let's see. Okay.
Looks like we got one. Will the table fields on the final invoice show up in multiple lines to allow for more info to appear?
Wait, let's see. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah. Will the table fields on the final invoice show up in multiple lines to allow for more info to appear?
Let's see. I think I understand the question. If you have a really long description or a really long matter name or something like that, we add cell width so that all of it is shown and none of it is cut off. I think that's the question. If that's not right, let me know.
Yeah, we don't have much more context there, but I believe that's it. For William Wilson, I am not clear on the timing of this invoice feature and how it will apply to my existing LeanLaw account. So William, to answer your question there, QuickBooks did an update for their invoice formatting. And so a lot of the invoice formatting that QuickBooks has updated now changes how your invoices look to your clients. Some of it includes the trust information is going to look differently. And so this is an alternative to that. So our goal with this is to give you additional control over how your invoices look, and be able to do that completely within LeanLaw. It still all transfers to QuickBooks. So there's no issues with the data when it comes to transferring that to QuickBooks. But that way, when your clients get the invoice, it looks the way that you want it to look.
Yeah, and let's see. I think we've got a question from Duran. If my screen doesn't look like what you were showing, does that mean we're in core customer? So that probably just means that you do not have the flipper for this turned on. Right now, we're restricting this as an opt-in program, so we're not going to turn this on for anyone who doesn't want it. So if you have a Confido account with our payments partner, Confido, and would like access to this, reach out to Jay and his team at support@myleanlaw.com, and we can get this turned on for you. Once it's turned on, if you're a pro firm, you'll have access to 3 templates. And if you are a core or pioneer firm, you'll have access to 1 template.
Yeah. To answer Peggy Jackson, if we don't want to enable the payment feature, are we stuck with QuickBooks Invoice Change? No, you can still apply to Confido. It does not mean you have to include payment links in your emails or your messaging to your clients. You can choose to not put payment links in your emails when you're sending your invoices to the clients. What we're specifically mentioning and including for our early access is you just have to have a Confido account. If you have a submitted application or an approved application, we can enable this feature for you.
Yeah. And to clarify, this is an early access feature. So eventually this will be available for other groups of firms if you don't have a Confido account. We don't have the specifics of that nailed down, if it will be an add-on or included in a subscription. As we continue to iterate on this and develop on it, we're kind of targeting availability for fall of 2024, but we will keep everyone in the loop as development continues. So especially if you join the waitlist.
A question from Sanjeev, are we capped at 3 templates? The Pro, if you have LeanLaw Pro, you are capped at 3 templates. If you are a core or pioneer user, you will have 1 template.
Yeah, Sanjeev, if you are, if you need more templates, I'd definitely be interested in what the use cases for that are, and like how many specifically you needed. Let's definitely follow up after this and talk more. And Lori Moole, can you have the amounts of the write-down show, including the total? So for now, if you have the write-down column enabled, it'll just show the number of hours that you wrote down. If you have the rate and the amount, it'll be clear, or it'll be reasonably clear that that's a like they could do the math on like how much that write-down was worth. But currently we don't have like a separate line item for the total value of the write-down hours. But that's an interesting idea. I can definitely put that in as a feature request if that's what you're asking, or let me know if I misunderstood the question.
Okay, let's see. For Tammy Dillon, do you download the invoice in LeanLaw before you send to QuickBooks so it looks the way that you need it to? No, you work the entire invoice how you normally would, but entirely within LeanLaw. What LeanLaw does is that it will send the information to QuickBooks, and the way it'll look in QuickBooks will stay how QuickBooks wants it formatted. The LeanLaw version of it is just going to be what you can show your client that matches the way you want it to look like. And the QuickBooks formatting is going to be more for your accounting, you know, if just for reference material, really. The goal with this is, again, to be able to give you an alternative to the QuickBooks format that is more closely aligned with what you would use in a firm. Give you additional control over the formatting, and ensure that you're not having to go, you know, back and forth between QuickBooks and LeanLaw trying to edit the format. You can just do it completely in LeanLaw, and LeanLaw will take care of feeding that information to QuickBooks.
Yeah, awesome. Let's see. Yes. Mari Carmen. So the fees subtotal and then expense total is something that's coming and we're working on now. It's not currently supported, but we know how important that is, and we're excited to release that. And the LeanLaw invoice will not get pushed over as an attachment with the QuickBooks invoice. It will stay in LeanLaw until you download or email it. Jacob Smith, can we remove the email address listed in the top right corner? Yes. Right now, that's just your company email. in QuickBooks. So you could remove, well, actually, I think you can't remove that. We're working on right now allowing you to just overwrite the address and the email address with whatever you want or leave it blank. So that will be available in the next month or so if you don't want the email address there at all. But you can change it in QuickBooks by changing your company email right now.
Anonymous says, please confirm the leads invoicing remains the same. Yep, that stays exactly the same. Whatever settings you have with leads stay the same.
On the invoice example, I noticed expenses and services are split several times. Why is that? I don't know if that was a setting option that was selected. Yeah, so that was a we had subheaders enabled in invoice presentation, and it had I think 6 different matters on that client invoice. So it was split for each matter. If you just have a single matter invoice, that won't there won't be that many splits.
For Mary Carmen, can the memo section of the invoice be used to add wire transfer instructions? You can edit information. I believe in the memo section, you can edit it. Now, I do want to add a quick asterisk there that entering the wiring instructions in the memo template, while it is a thing you can add that information, it is not. There are other ways to make yourself more financially secure. Because having that information out and available, like if your client misplaces the invoice for whatever reason, that's information that whoever has access to that invoice will have. So we do have alternatives that will allow you to receive payments in that way without putting that information out there. But that is an option, yes.
Yeah, and if you're accepting wire transfers and want a way for this to look like super seamless and easy, I would recommend using our payments partner, Confido. You can accept ACH payments from them. They have a pretty high limit, usually like $50,000 or $100,000 per transaction that you could get, and it will create a payment for it automatically with your invoice in QuickBooks and in LeanLaw. And
Here's a
then
question.
oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought, Melissa.
Oh yeah. And you won't have to have your routing and account numbers available all the time.
Interesting question from Grace Monk. Are there plans to add the ability to include an attachment with the invoice going out from LeanLaw? Looks like right now they're adding it and sending it from QuickBooks.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is something that we have on our roadmap, being able to add like an attachment, like if you have work product or something like that, you need to include. Right now, if you attach it to the invoice in QuickBooks and then email the invoice from LeanLaw, the attachment will be included. So if you have something that your accountant is attaching automatically to every invoice from QuickBooks, that'll be included in your LeanLaw email. We'd like to integrate that so that it's available just from LeanLaw. Additionally, we have the ability, if you're a pro firm, to include expense attachments automatically in your invoice emails. So if that's specifically what you're doing, we can help you get set up to sync in your attachments from QuickBooks, or you can add them in LeanLaw. And each, of course, I can share my screen while I do this. For instance, like if I wanted to add an attachment here, and create this invoice and send it to the client. If I have this client enabled for expense attachments, this attachment will automatically be included on that invoice email. Let's see.
Tracy, great question there. Will a location option section be turned on at a matter level that will link to the QuickBooks location?
The QuickBooks location. Yeah, Jay, do you happen to know, do you have more context on that?
I believe it would be for firms that have multiple locations.
Oh, yes.
And I think that might be something to discuss further. So it sounds like, Tracy, if you have the opportunity and you could email Melissa, that would be fantastic, and we could dig into that.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Yeah. We'll share Melissa's email here in a little bit.
Yep. Good. Let's see. Perfect. And Todd is asking, will the Excel detail attachments remain unchanged through all these improvements? Yeah, I think there are a couple things that will be generated in Excel. We can definitely, that can generate, as like a CSV, and be attached. We can definitely look into what specifically you're using there. I'd love to hear more about that. But like I said, this early access program is opt-in only, so we're not going to just turn this on for everyone overnight after this webinar or anything like that. So if we're missing something, like for instance subtotals that you absolutely need, we can wait until that's added to get this enabled for your firm.
Yeah. Anonymous, you may have already answered this question. Once the switch to the updated software takes place, will I need to change selections for each current client matter? So like Melissa said, this is opt-in. In regards to if you do decide to opt in and you want to set those templates, you do, I believe, have to go and set that for the specific client. Is that correct, Melissa?
I think that's true. We'll fix that pretty soon so that when this is enabled, your each template gets added, your default template gets added to all of your clients and matters automatically as soon as it's turned on. And that will definitely be available before this is a general access feature that everyone has access to. Okay, Tracy, I think I'm going to need to take a look at, I don't have your firm's feature request up in front of me right now, but we can definitely follow up with you after this.
Yeah. And then Katie,
with regards to the location stuff. Yeah.
Katie Fisher, when will this be launched? This is available right now. It is an opt-in program, Katie. So if you have a Confido legal application submitted or approved, you can reach out to our support team and request to have it enabled. If you don't know what Confido is or don't have a submitted application, you can still reach out to our support team. Happy to give you all the info you need.
Awesome. Cool. Karen and Katie, we're going to follow up with you after this to get this enabled. We wanted to make sure that we had some direct communication with everyone before just turning it on. You might have heard about this in I think our last product update newsletter and opted in. So we will be following up with everyone who replied to that kind of after this webinar with further instructions on getting this enabled. Or
awesome.
to get it enabled if they're already eligible.
All right. So if we haven't answered your question yet, or you still have questions, again, feel free to reach out to our support team. You can do so in the little chat bubble at the bottom right of your LeanLaw screen, or you can email support@myleanlaw.com and we'll tackle your questions there as well.
Awesome. And if there is a feature that you want that we didn't discuss today, that's not in the upcoming roadmap, I'd love to talk more about it with you. So please just reach out to me, Melissa at MyLeanLaw. And I have a couple to-dos to follow up with some folks from this webinar as well. Awesome.
Awesome.
So that is it. I think we're good to go. Thank you so much for joining. We're so excited about this functionality here, and are thrilled that we get to share this with you. Let's see, Jay, do you have a fun sign off?
Well, I mean, so far we're seeing the chats pop off, so I'm excited to get to everybody's questions and get that addressed. So, woo!
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.